Rich Dad, Poor Dad is perhaps one of the most influential financial books ever written. A book that claims to reveal the secrets of the rich by exposing the flaws of traditional education. It has sold millions of copies, inspired entrepreneurs, and shaped the way people think about wealth. But what if I told you that the man behind it, Robert Kiyosaki, has built his empire on contradictions, bankruptcies, and financial manipulation? Kiyosaki presents himself as a self-made millionaire who cracked the code of financial success. His story of learning from a mysterious rich dad has inspired countless followers. But there is just one problem. No one has ever been able to prove that rich dad even existed. And that is just the beginning. From bankruptcies to high-pressure seminar scams, Kiyosaki's career is riddled with controversies that don't quite align with his public image.
I don't want to do this interview anymore. If you want to find out what I know or tell me what you know, then don't interview me.
Okay.
Just you do your own stupid show.
He promotes financial freedom, yet his business model depends on convincing people to spend thousands on vague, overpriced courses.
Do what I tell you to do. Do it.
His success is built on a story that keeps changing.
Father was the head of education for the state of Hawaii.
My poor dad was actually a Marxist.
A past that doesn't add up,
And I was so sick and tired of lying.
and advice that could leave you in debt rather than make you rich.
Bankruptcy is a way of getting out of a bad situation.
Today, we're exposing perhaps the biggest scam in financial guru history. Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki's story begins like that of many self-made entrepreneurs. A former Marine Corps pilot and failed businessman, he struggled to find his footing in the world of finance. Then in 1997, he published Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a book that promised to reveal the secrets that the rich teach their kids about money while the poor and middle class do not. The book took off like wildfire. It challenged everything people thought they knew about financial success. Kiyosaki told the story of his two father figures, his educated but financially struggling poor dad, and a mysterious rich dad who supposedly taught him the secrets of wealth. His message was simple but powerful. Schools don't teach you financial literacy, jobs won't make you rich, and the only way to escape the rat race is through smart investing. It was a rallying cry for financial independence, and people listened. Rich Dad, Poor Dad became a global phenomenon, selling over 32 million copies. Kiyosaki built an empire publishing more books, launching speaking tours, and appearing on major financial networks. He became a mentor to millions, preaching the importance of passive income, real estate entrepreneurship over traditional jobs. For a time, he was seen as one of the most important voices in financial education. But beneath the surface of his success, cracks were beginning to show. The first red flag was Rich Dad himself. Despite Kiyosaki's insistence that this mentor was real, no one has ever been able to verify his existence. Journalists, researchers, and even former associates have searched for this elusive figure, only to come up empty-handed. Was Rich Dad real? Or was he just a marketing gimmick, a fabricated character designed to sell books? Then came the financial failures. In 2012, one of Kiyosaki's companies, Rich Dad Global LLC, filed for bankruptcy only $24 million after losing a lawsuit. A man who built his brand on financial success had ironically gone broke. But Kiyosaki had already moved his wealth to a different company, Rich Dad Co., leaving others to deal with the fallout. Then there were the seminars, marketed as a way to help people achieve financial freedom. These Rich Dad events lured attendees with free workshops, only to pressure them into paying tens of thousands of dollars for vague, high-priced courses. Investigations from the CBC News, BBC Panorama, and other watchdogs exposed aggressive sale tactics, false promises, and even coaching people into debt to afford more training. And finally, the shifting narratives. Kiyosaki's stories about his real father, his past, and his financial strategies have changed multiple times over the years. One moment, Poor Dad was broke. The next, he was financially comfortable. One moment, Kiyosaki was a brilliant investor. The next, he was filing for bankruptcy. Kiyosaki's entire philosophy is built on the story of Rich Dad, a mysterious wealthy mentor who taught him the secrets of money, while his real father, Poor Dad, remained financially clueless. This personal narrative is the emotional hook of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, making readers believe that they too can learn these lessons. Here's the problem though. No one has ever been able to verify Rich Dad's existence. Kiyosaki has never provided a name or any proof that this mentor was real. Investigative journalists have searched for him. Even Kiyosaki's former associates have admitted they don't know who he's talking about. When confronted, Kiyosaki has shifted his stance, sometimes saying the Rich Dad was real, sometimes implying that he was a composite character, and even once claiming, "That's my secret, and you figured it out." But that's not how mentorship works. That's how marketing works. It is highly likely that Rich Dad never existed, and the story was a branding gimmick, an easy way to make Kiyosaki's advice sound more profound. And yet, millions believed it. But all of this could go away with a simple admission that he refuses to do so. After all, the message of the book is still valid, even if Rich Dad is just a composite fictional character.
Do what I tell you to do. Do it.
Kiyosaki's seminars promise to teach attendees how to escape the rat race, invest wisely, and achieve financial freedom. They start with free workshops where people expect valuable financial education.
Good morning, my name is Mark Musso. I will be your trainer.
In reality, the free seminars are just a sales funnel for shockingly expensive courses.
Right. Advanced training, investment from $12,000 to $45,000.
Attendees are lured in, hyped up with success stories, then pressured into spending thousands of dollars on vague elite training.
If you guys are not happy about what I'm saying, leave. And sorry to say, but if you have the guts to say something, say it to my face. And if you think it's too expensive, come and tell me and I'll ask you to leave.
And that is before they push you towards risky real estate deals. Kiyosaki defended himself,
Oh, it's a license of my company.
saying he simply licenses his name to seminar companies and isn't responsible for their tactics. But let's be real, if you profit from these seminars and if you cared about financial education, wouldn't he be against exploitation?
We'll look into that. If that's true, I will look into that.
These seminars aren't about teaching people to build wealth. They are about extracting as much money as possible from desperate, financially struggling individuals, and some of them went into financial ruin because of him.
Case for Robert Maurice of Tennessee. Maurice and his wife later filed bankruptcy. The company, without admitting liability, agreed to pay the AG $500,000 plus another $194,000 in restitution to victims who attended seminars.
Kiyosaki markets himself as a self-made millionaire, an investment genius who mastered real estate, stock, and business. Yet in 2012, his company Rich Global LLC filed for bankruptcy.
Or was there mention of this? One of Kiyosaki's companies, Rich Global, filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy last year after getting hit with a $23 million court judgment.
His response? He simply moved his money to another company, Rich Dad Co., and walked away untouched. This wasn't an isolated failure. Several of his business ventures have collapsed, including a failed real estate investment and a board game company that never took off. Even worse, some financial experts have pointed out that Kiyosaki doesn't actually practice what he preaches. His advice often involves high-risk real estate flipping and leveraging debt, but when he fails, he has corporate loopholes to protect his assets. His followers, well, they don't. Kiyosaki isn't a financial genius. He's a master at selling an illusion. His biggest investment success wasn't real estate or stocks. It was selling books and seminars to people who believed he had the answers. Kiyosaki's books claims to reveal the secrets of wealth, including why savers are losers and why investing in assets over working a job is the key to financial freedom. But his advice is often inconsistent and reckless. He tells people to avoid jobs and traditional education, yet his own success came from writing books, not investing. He constantly changes his stance on his real father's financial status, making his narrative unreliable. He promotes using debt to invest, yet most people don't have the safety net like his corporations do. Even more suspiciously, his biggest supporters often point to his best-selling books as proof of his financial genius. But book sales aren't investment strategies, they are a business model. He sells a dream, not a roadmap. His advice isn't about making you rich. It's about convincing you to keep buying his books, seminars, and courses, all of which were never created by him, especially his book, which begs the question, who wrote his book? Let's start with the official narrative. Kiyosaki claims Rich Dad, Poor Dad was entirely his creation, inspired by his life experiences. He has maintained this story for years, portraying himself as a self-made entrepreneur and author. However, there is strong evidence suggesting that he wasn't the primary writer after all. The name Sharon Lechter is not as widely known as Kiyosaki's, but it should be, because she is the one who actually structured, co-wrote, and refined Rich Dad Poor Dad. Lechter is a certified accountant, financial educator, and former CPA with a career built on financial literacy and education. Unlike Kiyosaki, she had the technical financial knowledge and writing expertise necessary to turn a vague concept into a polished, best-selling book. Multiple reports, interviews, and even Lechter's own statements indicate that Kiyosaki had ideas but lacked the ability to structure them into a compelling book. He needed someone to turn his rough stories into something marketable, and that is where Lechter comes in. According to Publishing Industry Insider, Lechter was responsible for organizing and writing the manuscript, ensuring it had a coherent narrative and financial message. Her background in financial literacy and education made her the ideal person to legitimize the book. Kiyosaki had charisma, but Lechter had the professional credibility that helped sell the book. When the book was first released in 1997, it wasn't an instant hit. In fact, Kiyosaki and Lechter initially self-published it under the joint company Cashflow Technologies Inc. and only sold 1,000 copies. Without a major publisher backing them, they needed a different strategy. The book was eventually discovered by Bill Galvin, a high-ranking Amway distributor, before its mainstream success. Seeing its alignment with Amway's entrepreneurial philosophy, he introduced it to the multi-level marketing network. Amway began promoting and bulk purchasing the book, incorporating it into their training materials. This provided Rich Dad Poor Dad with a massive built-in audience, pushing sales far beyond what traditional bookstores could have achieved. The turning point: Oprah.
What do the rich teach their children about money that the poor and middle class do not? Robert Kiyosaki teaches people to be millionaires, and he says that the rich have a very different way of thinking about money. His book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has been on the New York Times business bestseller list for 8 months. If you need money, this is a show for you. Take a look.
The exposure was a game changer. Warner Books, which had acquired publishing rights, printed 400,000 copies in anticipation of the demand. After the show aired, sales exploded, pushing the book past 1 million copies sold and cementing Kiyosaki's reputation as a financial guru. Unlike most financial books, Rich Dad Poor Dad wasn't marketed as a dry investment advice. It was a personal story, a philosophy, an easy-to-read narrative, making it accessible to the masses. Kiyosaki's seminars and aggressive promotional tactics turned it into a movement rather than just a book. For years, Lechter worked behind the scenes while Kiyosaki became the public face of Rich Dad Poor Dad. But by 2007, their partnership collapsed. Lechter left the company, sued Kiyosaki, and later stated that she no longer wanted to be associated with his business practices. The lawsuit involved royalty disputes where Lechter claimed that she was owed unpaid royalties from the Rich Dad brand, and Kiyosaki continued profiting from books, seminars, and financial courses without properly compensating her. Kiyosaki downplayed the split, but the signs were clear. The business relationship had soured. Lechter wanted nothing to do with the brand anymore, and Kiyosaki kept all the credit even as his financial credibility crumbled. All evidence points to Sharon Lechter as the true driving force behind Rich Dad Poor Dad. Without her, there's strong chance that the book never would have been written, structured, or marketed successfully. Kiyosaki may have had the initial concept, but Lechter transformed it to a best-selling book. At the end of the day, Rich Dad Poor Dad was never about teaching people how to be rich. It was a product, a carefully crafted, highly marketable book designed to sell more books, courses, and seminars. Kiyosaki built his empire on a fictional mentor, overpriced seminars, financial failures, and constantly shifting stories. He sells the dream of financial freedom, but the only person guaranteed to make money is him. The real lesson from Rich Dad Poor Dad: the best way to get rich isn't following Kiyosaki's advice. It's doing what Kiyosaki does: selling people an expensive fantasy.